right? But we tend to fight all the time. The most common reaction is fight. When somebody says something unpleasant to us, we get angry and shout back. Right? Somebody says, oh, that dress doesn't look nice on you. You look so pangit. And you turn around and say, oh, you think you're very ganda? Huh? That's natural reaction. Fight. Okay? Why? Because there's this devil inside us called ego. Well, for lack of a better word, right? I call it devil inside us, but it's actually inside us, ego arising. So what is ego? I use ego as an acronym. I call it Emotionally Grasping Overdrive. It's an emotional thing arising, and you are hanging on to something, and it is very powerful. That's why it's an emotionally grasping overdrive. Ego arising. So what happens when ego arises? It's a mental state with excessive emotional attachment to whatever you think is right, whatever belongs to you, whatever you value in yourself, your pride or whatever, and it overpowers your thoughts and your feelings. It drives you to do terrible things. Very self-centered reactivity. You tend to react because you become self-centered. I, me, or mine. That's your ego is very strong. And this can affect your perception of what's going on. It can affect your desire. It can affect your attitude and your behavior. And this can lead to conflict, arrogance, aggression, resentment, stress, and suffering. That's what ego does to us. Right? And ego never brings peace and happiness. Never has ego brought peace and happiness. Some people, especially those who teach business, they will say, oh, you need your ego to become better. Sometimes a little bit of drive is good, but not emotional overdrive. Ego is an emotional overdrive. And basically, ego has never brought peace and happiness to anyone. And not only that, learn to let go of ego, because that ego will destroy you. Now, I'm going to show you some very powerful teachings of the Buddha that explain all this, right? But of course, I've presented it in a secular manner. And the Buddha has pointed out about these emotions. Basically, he's referring to ego, but he used the word emotions. Emotions dominate the world. Emotions create distress. Emotion is that one thing to which all are spellbound. See, emotional take control and it creates distress. Stress is what happens to the body. Distress is what happens to the mind. So distress is the mental and emotional part. Stress is the physical, physiological part. So the psychological part is distress, the physiological part is stress. And when that arises, we are under its control, right? Spellbound. So that is actually something we have to be very careful. If we realize something is stressing us, and we start to realize that maybe our ego is starting to rise up, pause. Do not react. And then relax. Okay? Otherwise, this is also what's going to happen. The Buddha also mentioned, whatever harm one's enemy may do to one, or a hater to another, it's one's ill-directed emotions that inflict upon oneself a greater harm. In other words, your enemy may do something to hurt you, but if you are not careful about how your emotions rise up and take control of you, how your ego controls you and spellbound you, that can create more harm to yourself, make you very unhealthy. You're causing a lot of unhealthiness in your own mind and body. And when the Buddha said ill-directed emotions, what he was referring to is mental proliferation, the mind going crazy with imagination of things that are not true. You know, imagination is never about the truth. Imagination is about something that hasn't happened yet. You're just imagining it. Memory is remembering something that already long gone. Why keep clinging on to the memory? And expectation is when things are in front of us, we always have some expectations that differ from the reality. See, when our expectations are not consistent with the reality, we are suffering, right? Mama cooks pork adobo. So happened that day you wanted to eat something, maybe you want to eat something else. And then you look at the pork adobo, oh, I don't like pork adobo, and then your expectations. So we have to take control. Imagination is something that hasn't happened yet. It's not true. Imagination is never the truth. And memory is something that's long gone. Can you change the past? You can't. Let it go. Expectation. What is right in front of you is the reality. Why expect to be different? Right? So these are the things that control us under spell of our emotional tendencies. So we have to be very careful about what happens when ego arises. Now I'm going to show you why do we react. Why do we react negatively? When somebody says something unpleasant to us, why do we shout back, react? Not only because of the ego, but because of something else. Let's make an example. Here we're going to use an orange. If I pick up an orange and I squeeze an orange and then the juice is dripping out, what kind of juice comes out? Is it mango juice? Orange juice. Is it pineapple juice? No, mango juice. Orange juice. Why? Because orange juice is what's inside. Yeah? So listen to one of my former mentor. I follow him a lot. In the old days, in 10, 20 years ago, I used to buy a lot of DVDs. Those days they were selling DVDs on motivational training. I bought a lot from Wayne Dyer. And now listen to his explanation. He used orange as a metaphor.
An orange is a simple metaphor. You take this orange and you squeeze it as hard as you can squeeze it. And you ask yourself, what will come out? And what comes out when you squeeze an orange? Orange juice. Never, no matter how many times you squeeze it, will apple juice come out. There's no mistakes. You'll never get grapefruit juice out of this thing, ever. The only thing you'll ever get out of it is orange juice. And the next question is why? Why when you squeeze an orange, as hard as you can squeeze it, does orange juice come out? And I asked that question up in Toronto one time, there's a little girl sitting right in the front row. She said, that's dumb. She said, that's what's inside. It has to come out. I said, well, that's the answer. You are really smart. And she smiled. She thought that was great. But that's the truth. The reason that orange juice comes out when you squeeze it is because that's what's inside. Now you extend the metaphor and someone squeezes you. That is, someone says something about you that you don't like. Someone behaves towards you in a way that you find offensive. Somebody does something or says something to you that you feel hurt by. And out of you comes anger, hatred, bitterness, tension, fear, anxiety, stress. And immediately you say, the reason that comes out of me is because of how he said it, or the way that she said that, or because they did that. But the truth is, the reality is, that what comes out is what's inside. And if you don't like what's inside, you can change it.
What comes out is because of what's inside. But the good news is, if you don't like what's inside, you have the power to change it. You can't change what goes on outside easily. You may influence it one way or another, but you can't change it. You can influence it by being kind to people, then less people will become unkind to you. That is influence, but you can't change it. Even some people, you're kind to them, they still can become very nasty to you. You can't control that, but you can control what goes on inside. Because if it is to be, it is up to me. Remember this mantra. If it is to be, it is up to me. Let's say that together. Ready, go. If it is to be, it is up to me. So when something good happens, what do? Very good, very good. Yay! Very good, very good. Yay! Okay, if you don't like what's inside, you can change it, okay? Because when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. If it is to be, It is up to me.